Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Red Path Painting and Chill Hobby Streams. It is Thursday evening here for myself, your host, Dara. What is up? How are we doing this evening? We are going to be doing some painting, some hanging out, and all the other good stuff that goes on in between on these painting streams. And today we are going to be working on a very special piece that I have been converting up over the last week or so. Spoke about it a little bit on Monday night's stream, but we are going to be painting a Juggernaut Lord, and not just any Juggernaut Lord. His name is the Firekeeper, and he is called thus because he is a very important component of my custom homebrew warband lore. So this is the model that I've put together for it. Now, obviously, you can see he's not quite finished yet. He is missing one head backpack, and his arm is raised suspiciously upwards without any weapon in it. And we will get into that, why that is, a little bit into the stream. But yeah, so on today's episode, we are going to be focusing on laying down some foundation tones, some base tones all over this Juggernaut's armor, which is largely going to be a mixture of white and either blue or red. I haven't fully decided yet. I think it's going to be red though. So yeah, this is the piece that we have at the minute. So I spent a little while kit bashing this guy. The idea behind him is, so he's called the Firekeeper, like I said, and in the lore of my custom homebrew warband, he is the herald of Macra lore, my demon prince. So the reason why his arm is outstretched like this is because he's going to have an absolutely massive banner, which I am working on separately from the miniature just to make things a little bit easier. And we are going to have a big kind of banner stand coming in here from the top. That's where that's going to be. That's kind of why his arm is upraised like this. We also have a nice little helmet and backpack and all the good stuff for him. We're going to be putting those on at a later point in the model. But for now, we are going to kind of focus on the core sort of aspect of this model, which is the Juggernaut and the guy riding atop it. So that was a whole lovely little preamble, but we are going to get into a little bit of painting now. So we are going to start by basing out the white armor. Now, I was thinking long and hard about whether or not I wanted to paint the Juggernaut white, whether I wanted to paint him bronze or anything in between. And in the end, I settled on white because I saw a lot of really nice reference images online of people who've done white Juggernauts. And I think there's a lot we can do with it once we get to the grimdark stages, you know, all the kind of weathering that we can add to it. So we're going to start with a little white armor base coat recipe that I have perfected. I think is not too harsh of a word to say over the last couple of years, which is a mix of Baneblade Brown and Corax White, and this is the white base coat that I use for every single World Eater that I have ever painted as soon as I learned how to do this mix properly. Now we are looking at about a 50-50 mix, maybe leaning a little bit more into the white rather than the Baneblade Brown. You want to get a nice kind of creamy color coming out with this, and you're not going to water it down too much because it is a foundation layer. You want it to go down a little bit thick at the start, just so it holds pretty well. All that said, we are going to take about 2 or 3 layers to actually work this up to a consistency that we're happy with. So we're going to water it down a touch, just probably 1 drop of water to 2 parts paint. And we're going to get our base coat brush and begin basing out this fun little dude. So, see Greenblood Crusade is already here. Who else we got hanging out in chat? Any of the regulars? Hope we are doing well on this evening. Now the next few Thursday paint streams are going to be focusing on painting this guy, the Firekeeper, and then the Monday streams are going to kind of focus on that Jackal Dishonor that we were working on already. So it'll be a nice little bit of variation on a week-to-week basis of different things being painted, just to keep it fresh and interesting for everyone. And we'll be able to watch their progress over the next couple of weeks or so. So we are just basing this out now with this Corax White and Baneblade Brown mixture that I really like using. And we don't have to be too careful, we're just chilling, getting this base coat down nice and quickly. and having a good time. We are going to add some accent colors as well to the model, but I haven't quite decided exactly where we're going to be laying those down just yet, so we'll give it a little bit of time to decide that. And I think we'll base everything out white first of all, and then probably come back with those accent colors later, unless during the process anything jumps out at me as being like, okay, that's where we're going to put that down. So while I do like to go into a miniature with a little bit of planning, there is a certain amount of randomness as well, and I suppose natural kind of I don't know, natural vibing that we're doing while we're painting, just being like, oh, you know what, that actually feels pretty good, let's do that thing. So how is everyone else doing? What's vibing in the chat? Who is here? Is anyone hobbying? What are you working on? Talk to me, people. Hello, Rin. Good to see you, my friends. How has your hobbying been going? So again, going back to, for anyone who didn't catch it, one of the main reasons we're painting this Juggernaut white is primarily this piece here and the one on the opposite side. This is a fantastic, cheeky little piece for weathering. It's a lovely, gorgeous, flat white armor panel. Oh my god. If anything gets me excited, it's a nice big flat armor panel. It's just so beautiful because it means we can do streaking grime, we can do different types of oil blending, we can do blood spatters, we can do chipping effects. There's like literally every single grimdark technique that I enjoy doing can be done on this armor panel, and we are going to hit it with probably most of those. So that was the primary reason why I actually decided to paint the Juggernaut white, is because there are so many opportunities for really cool grimdark schemes on this guy. Then if we painted him brass, we can't really do as much type of weathering textures and things like that. So it's a bit of a stylistic choice in the end, but also I do just think that white Juggernauts look really cool. And I know canonically maybe they shouldn't really be that color, but I don't particularly care about the hardcore canon because this is canon for my warband, and my rules are my rules when it comes to the Cinder Host. Also, if you folks like custom lore, I've got a very exciting episode of All Around the World Leaders coming out tomorrow, which is all about custom lore for warbands, for Space Marine companies, for a variety of different things, all about how you can kind of go about writing custom lore. Got a very cool guest star coming on for that episode, so it is going to be worth checking out. Alright, so what's going on in chat? Mark from South Africa, what is up, my friends? Nice to see you tuning in. What is the time difference for you? Greenblood Crusade painting berserkers as always. Keeping it good, my friends, keeping it good. And Travis, taking a little break from your world leaders. Nice. Working on some custodes. Yeah, that's good. What kind of custodes are you painting? Always hyped to hear what you folks are getting up to in chat, so do let me know. Keep me entertained. It was quite actually a tough conversion to get this going. I had to like fully resculpt the legs so that it was a little bit of a more relaxed position for the Firekeeper, which was actually pretty challenging. Going into it, I thought it would be a lot easier than it actually ended up being, which was an unpleasant task as I had to work with green stuff, which, despite my name on Instagram and other painting areas, which is coffee cups and green stuff, I actually hate using green stuff. So it was not fun. Not fun for me at all. But we got there in the end, and he is looking okay. I slotted in the banner for him just before I primed him, and it looks really good. But we will get to that when we get to it. Hey, no problem, Kenneth. Glad I could help you with the list for the metallics. Hope it worked out well for you. I know lots of people were chasing me for the Angron metallics. It seems like that recipe proved quite popular in the end. Oh, nice. You got a white and blue scheme for your custodes. Nice, nice, nice. White custodes looks really good, I always think. I think, is it this Shadow Host? Or no, it can't be them. There is a white custode scheme. Oh, lunar something maybe? I don't know. I think they're white and purple. Those guys look cool. Anything that's painted white, I'm a fan of it, because white is such a difficult color to work with that it's always very impressive to me when someone executes it well. So we're being pretty rough on this initial pass with the white base coat, just because we don't need to particularly care about neatness right now. It's just kind of like, whatever, slap it down. As long as we're getting paint on the model, that is what matters. So while I'm base coating out this guy, are you guys interested in hearing a little bit of homebrew lore for what this guy is and what he represents? Because if you want, I can go into a little bit of a story time. But if you'd prefer to just kind of vibe and watch the painting, listen to the tunes, that's cool too. Let me know in chat if you want to hear some lore. If so, I can dump some lore. Okay, I'm getting the distinct vibe that people want the lore. Well, I don't know, you know, maybe some people just come here to hang out and watch some painting, and not listen. Well, I mean, would rather not listen to my voice, which can be a little bit monotonous at times. But if lore is what is required, then lore is what I shall give. So, this miniature, this Juggernaut Lord as he is played on the tabletop, is not really a lord in the lore of my custom warband. So he is actually what is called a herald. Now, heralds have a little bit of a confusing kind of misnomer in 40k because they're often associated with demonic heralds, which are the likes of you know, Bloodmasters and Skullmasters, other things like that for Khorne, and you've got all the Nurgle ones as well. And they were previously called heralds. So when I say the word herald, a lot of people kind of think, why are you calling them that? That's what those guys are. But you know, historically, and even what they represent in the demons, heralds are sort of like messengers or symbol bearers for a particular realm or a particular being, a god or a kingdom or something like that. Heralds have always kind of just been the outrider or the greeter for a larger party. And this guy, the Firekeeper, is the Heralds for the Cinder Host, which is the name of my custom warband. Now, you might be realizing, he's called the Cinder Host, this guy's called the Firekeeper. There's a lot of things here to do with fire and flames and burning and stuff. And you are correct, because I am heavily inspired by the game Dark Souls, which is one of my favorite games of all time, which has, kind of inspired me in many different ways. And when it comes to writing the lore of my warband, I don't try and port over things from Dark Souls. It's more like it's a theme that I really like to try and convey. So that's why it's called the Host of Char and Cinder. The splinter group that broke off from that is the Cinder Host, and other things like that. So this guy's called a Firekeeper because of a notable character in Dark Souls games called a Firekeeper, who is kind of your heralds in many ways. It's sort of like your, not quite messenger, I suppose, but something that's kind of always by your side. I'm just going to make up a fresh mix of this base coat paint while I talk. So, the Firekeeper from Macrolore is a character who bears Macrolore's standard. Now, standards and flags are something that I really, really freaking love. In historical battles, in stories, in loads of things like that, I think the standard bearer is such an interesting character because they represent so many things, right? Even as far back as like early 40k, when I was just starting to get into it, standard bearers and ancients and stuff, they were super interesting to me because, they're giving up their primary ability to fight in a battle so that they can carry the standard of their company or their warband and be a representative, to kind of fly the flag and be the person who shows what the army stands for, which I think is a really, really cool symbol and a very honorable position to have. So that's always been really interesting to me, in the concept of capturing standards in battle and, the importance of flags and all that sort of symbolism that's tied with it. And I've always wanted to represent that in my custom warband, but I've never really been pulled by a single model that I suppose drives me to be like, yes, that's going to be my standard bearer. That's going to be the person who carries the icon of my legion. In my head, it's always been someone who's on a horseback, someone who's above the rank and file, above the infantry. They kind of are at an elevated position. So when I saw the Juggernaut Lord, I immediately was enraptured by the model because it is a sick model, as is Invocatus. But I almost immediately afterwards thought to myself, that's the perfect standard bearer, because they're effectively on horseback, which is the main thing that elevates them above the masses that I'm kind of looking for. And it's almost a very historical reference that you've got this character up on this Juggernaut steed, and if he's holding a flag, he's above everyone else, and he's really sort of waving that banner in front of everyone. So that was the basis of deciding that the Juggernaut Lord was going to be the standard bearer for my custom warband. So I said, okay, cool, how am I going to accurately represent that? What's this guy's story going to be? This was all before I started working on the miniature. And going back to my grounding in Dark Souls as the sort of theme for my warband, as the inspiration, I said, what would be really cool? What if this character is called the Firekeeper, and they are kind of responsible with keeping the flame of the warband alive, and the flame of the warband being its sigil, what it stands for, everything that is important to it, because the warband is stuck in this I suppose era of time that they feel somewhat lost in, that they're not really a part of, and they're just trying to survive when everything around them is changing and they don't really recognize their own identity necessarily or where they belong in the galaxy. So the standard bearer is obviously very, very important because it's the one thing that kind of grounds them. It's the one thing that they can always associate back to. They can look to the flag and they can say, that is who we are, that is who we stand for, that is our symbol. So on the battlefield, the standard bearer is a very, very important part of the Cinder Host. They are the fire that keeps the warband a light. So obviously with all that in mind, they have to be a very cool and, interesting character in that lore. And they need a title. That's why I came up with the Firekeeper, keeping the flame burning. And I thought that the Firekeeper, it made sense that their kind of identity, their personal identity, is taken away from them as soon as they take up the mantle of bearing the standard of the Cinder Host. So that's why the Firekeeper doesn't have an actual name. It's just a title. Sort of like a lot of things in 40k, like the Sanguinary Guard, who eschew their names in favor of, protecting the Chapter Master, and things like that. It's a similar theme. So that was kind of the origins of this character, and then it's all about slotting them into the current lore, like what's going on in the warband. So right now we have this really interesting split where Juggernaut has divided from the main force. He went off by himself after he disagreed with the motivations and goals of the host of Char and Cinder. He fell out with Morokost after Morokost ordered the decimation of his own personal part of the warband. And he just went off by himself, and having gone off by himself, went on this tyrannical crusade to try and find and kill Angron for all the wrongs that he has done to the Legion, because Juggernaut kind of believes that Angron is very much responsible for the world leaders being the way that they are, which is an entirely fair thing to recognize. And when Morokost was saying that he was planning on reuniting the host of Char and Cinder with Angron, Juggernaut just wasn't happy about that, so he left. And since then they've been kind of, doing their own mini campaign through the galaxy, fighting a lot of Blood Angels, fighting a lot of Tyranids and Eldar and other things. And over time, Juggernaut ascended to become a Demon Prince, one way or another. We've kind of talked about that story already. We talked about it on the last stream. So as the Juggernaut's group, the hosts of Char and Cinder, are becoming more and more demonic, they're becoming more and more possessed, their identity is shifting and changing, and to many of them it's going unnoticed. It's happening rapidly in a sense, but also so slowly that it is unnoticeable. And a lot of the members of the warband are being possessed by the powers of chaos because it is going by their attention. There are some within the warband, of course, that do notice this, that do see the change, and they're desperately trying to, maintain their grip on their own identity, which is very difficult to do when their leader is now a hulking demon prince who is still determined to kill Angron. So they still have that motivation, but they're also thinking to themselves, well, how is he any different from Angron? Because is he not leading us down that same path of damnation that Angron was going to lead us down anyway? Like, our brothers are turning into demons all around us. There's madness on the ships, so how is that really any different to what Angron is presenting as an option? So for those people, they need a symbol to rally to make sure that they can maintain their sense of identity and still kind of find their way along the path to not so much redemption, but I think revenge in fighting Angron. So that's where the Firekeeper comes in. He is one of these characters in the army that still has a sense of self. He still has his own identity. He knows what he represents within the Legion, which is ironic because the fact that his role demands that his identity is effectively lost and that he just takes on the mantle of the Firekeeper. So that was kind of the reasoning behind the creation of this character, because I think he represents something very important in that specific area of my custom warband. And then upon kind of, coming up with all that, I tried to accurately bring that into the image of this model, which was, I gave him a very, very old Mark III chestplate here. And, we got the old Mark III shoulder pad going on as well. We have one of the Horus Heresy Berserker helmets that we're using for his helm as well, to kind of harken back to the fact that this guy has been around for a very long time and represents kind of the veterans of the Legion, represents the identity of the Legion, and the old school stuff, I guess. He's old blood. He is trying to make sure that everyone remembers who they are and where they came from. So that's kind of why we went in some of those stylistic choices to take away the 40k, as much of the 40k elements as we could, and kind of make him very Horus Heresy. And And yeah, that's kind of how we ended up with the Firekeeper, which is this character here. Now, his exploits, his battles that he's undergone and all that sort of stuff, that hasn't been documented yet, because the way that I normally accelerate the lore, and you'll hear about this in the episode of All Around the World Leaders tomorrow, is through battles. So this guy is going to be in my next tournament list, and it's an interesting one because he's running in a list alongside Angron. So the way that I've kind of shoehorned that in is I'm saying he was out on patrol by himself, leading a small group of Macrolor's warriors, and he's fighting in this campaign against whoever I come up against. And suddenly Angron appears. He's summoned into this world and he kind of wrecks carnage, and the guys kind of fight alongside him for a little while because Angron is just too deranged to really realize that the world leaders that are there are not necessarily world leaders that are friendly to him. So they kind of see him and they're like, oh my god, that's Angron, and they're going to go back after this tournament, after this campaign. They're going to tell Macrolor, hey, we have found Angron. We have found the target. And that is going to lead into my Warhammer Fest list, which I'm not bringing Angron to Warhammer Fest. I'm not bringing Invocatus. I'm bringing Macrolor, my Demon Prince. I'm bringing the Firekeeper, my Standard Bearer. And I'm bringing the Executioner of the Legion as well, my Master of Executions. And all the other characters that have, for one reason or another, been important to the host of Char and Cinder. And to Macrolor's story. So I'm bringing all them to Warhammer Fest. I am writing a very thematic army for the tournament there, and that is effectively going to decide Macrolor's fate. If I play against Angron at any point in that tournament, that will decide whether or not Macrolor is vindicated, if he seeks revenge or not, is he successful, and inevitably, well, I suppose not inevitably, but if he does die, that's going to be it. That is the conclusion of his story in that part of the lore. So it's entirely out of my hands, but I think it's a really cool way of concluding that story arc for him. And it feels really natural and right to me to make that happen, And that all kind of spun out from just the creation of this character, the Firekeeper. So, what's that, 20 minutes later? That's the lore of the Firekeeper, or the lore as it stands right now. I hope you folks did not mind that too much. That was a bit rambly, but I feel like I kind of gave a decent enough breakdown of what he's about. Meanwhile, on the Monday night stream, we're writing lore for, I believe he's currently called Philip the Dishonored, that we're working on. I'm considering having a little bit of not a competition, but whoever gets the last super chat on him can change his name to whatever they want it to. Currently it's at Philip. So if people want to change his name to something else as we paint him, you can feel free to try and alter that. But he's a little bit more of a comedic kind of vibe. Not really sure exactly what we're doing with this guy's head just yet. Oh, his head isn't on right now. I normally paint Space Marines without their helmets so I can get to the kind of back of the armor. So his head is just hanging around in the background. I'm going to be painting that separately. I want to spend a little bit more time on it as well and give it a nice, some nice detail. So painting it separately allows me to do that. Don't worry, he's not some weird headless world eater. Yeah, I'm still not really sure about this this head crest here. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it white and we're gonna have a red stripe coming down the front of it. I think that's what we'll do. Let's go with that. Unless someone has a better suggestion. I'm all ears. Anyway, that was enough monologuing for me. How is everyone else doing in chat? Does anyone else have any cool hobby going on? Or anything along those lines? How are we all vibing for the evening? It is an odd shade of Galvor back red, Mark. Don't worry, we'll get there when we get there. Hey man, we did the whole Galvor back red thing on Monday, remember? It's an interesting breakpoint here for the muzzle to try and work out where to stop doing the white, but I think it's at the hinge where the jaw is. It's probably where we will cut that off. Oh yeah, that looks good actually. If that's going to be a lower metal jaw, I think that will work quite nicely. Kind of start to get a feel for the color scheme of the model when you start blocking in these areas white. You've run out of 28mm bases for your jackals, Mark? I mean, if you put them on 25s, who's really gonna know the difference? Just saying. Whoops. Yeah, the white base coat looks really bad, doesn't it, Mark? It's fine. Like, it's terrifying in the first couple of models you do, but once you, yeah, exactly. Once you get the process down, you're like, I know exactly where this is going. It's fine. It always looks this bad. I mean, you've seen the end results. It's pretty crisp, pretty good. We're not stressed right now. You are trying to paint a white base coat over black primer, so it's going to be a little bit of a workup, but that's fine. I always find painting these white panels is super relaxing. Normally I just vibe out, listen to an audiobook. Right now I'm listening to Memories of Ice, which is really good. It's the third book in the Malazan Empire series. Is it called Malazan Empire? Something like that anyway. It's been real fun getting into that. So that's normally what I listen to because the books are like 16 hours long, so you get a lot of value out of them. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into the next Siege of Terra at some point soon, which will be another nice listening companion for my painting. But right now I have all you wonderful people to hang out with in stream to keep me occupied and entertained. So keep me occupied and entertained. One of the issues about kind of building this Juggerlord and having to do the conversion process is that I would have really liked to have the mount separate from the rider, but just because of having to cut up the legs and stuff and make sure that the pose was correct, I unfortunately wasn't really able to do that. It does make the painting a little bit more awkward, but you know, we get around that. It'll be okay. And like I said, we're being quite sloppy at the minute. We don't really care about having to be super neat for the base coat because it's just a base coat. We're going to be painting over everything here. We are pretty cool, being quite chill about all this. It's all fine. Whoops. That's a pretty funny mistake. I was looking at the screen and not looking at my brush. I wonder if many people actually built the Juggerlord, or has everyone literally just built Invocatus? Because I don't think I've seen many people not build Invocatus online. Which, like, I get it, you know, he's really good. I can understand that, but I want to see some Juggerlords, you know? It's a freaking cool kit. Your Miri kit past your own Juggerlord? Hell yeah, that's awesome. Just like me, my friends. We just gotta make up another quick base coat mix for this. We are running a little bit low. A lot of people hanging out at the minute. Cool to see the stream is pretty popular. Hope it's been an interesting one. I know we're only laying down some base coats, but that's what I got for you this evening, unfortunately. A little bit of white, which is always nice. He looks super messy right now. He's going to look real clean for a little bit later on, and then he's going to look super messy again once I start grimdarking him up. And that's how we roll. But the second time that he's going to be messy, he's going to look really good. So right now we are not stressed about how bad this base coat looks. It's totally fine. It's meant to look bad at this stage. It's not a big deal. Oh, you know, it's all about that patience as well. Taking patience to build up these white layers over the black. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it in the end. Camera seems to have decided it wants to have a bad day. That's a little bit annoying. This is a proper pain in the butts. The camera is just deciding to fail on me. That's cool. Not like I needed you to work anyway. Please don't revolt. Please have patience. I'm just gonna pause the camera stream for a minute, folks, so I get this sorted. Okay, and we are back. Sorry about that momentary distraction. My camera was having a slight malfunction. But we are returned with the Juggerlords. You know, the hardest part of converting this miniature was actually trying to make sure that this little chain here stayed glued while it was drying, because that was super hard to do. Everything else was like relatively straightforward, but making sure that chain was in the right place, that it didn't look silly, that was not fun. It was the problem with reposing this guy. It meant that the area that he was grabbing just didn't really line up anymore. And I had to kind of fundamentally alter how that rain was sort of operating, and that was an interesting challenge. I was thinking about doing hobby chain for a while, but then it would kind of look a little bit slack unless I got it literally perfect, which I definitely would not be able to do because that would be tough, and conversions aren't really my strongest suit. We got there in the end, and I think he'll look super impressive once we have the flag mounted as well. Hey Bardo, what's up? Yeah, we already covered the backstory. You can catch on the recap though. We will develop more of the backstory as these painting sessions go on for the old Firekeeper here. He's recently been on a mini crusade of killing lots of Khorne effects in practice games, which has been quite amusing. I'll take this time to plug the channel as well while you're watching, because if you haven't already, you need to hop in our Discord. You need to join the crazy good party that's going on in there. Everyone's always talking, lots of different channels to express any kind of interest. If you're into competitive, if you're into hobby, if you're into lore, whatever you want, we got it all in the Discord. Go hop in there. There's a link in the video description. And if you super like us, you know, give us a like on all our different socials if you want to kind of help support the gang. You know, we're on everything. We're on Instagram, we're on Spotify, we're on Discord, we're on Facebook, blah blah blah. You got it, we are there. Got a Patreon as well. There's not too much on the Patreon right now because we don't really want to pay gate content for anyone, but if you want to, if you really enjoy the channel, you can support us there, or you can drop super chats in any of our streams, or we have affiliate links, blah blah blah, all the good stuff. But not to harp on too much, if you want to support us, you know where to go. It's all good, it's all appreciated. And even just hanging out and stream, having a good time with me, that's the hell kind of good support that I like to see as well. Keeps me interested, keeps me painting for you folks. We are pretty much done the foundation, the first foundation layer of this white anyway. So we're going to hit it with another layer of this white, just to really strengthen that kind of first layer, so it's less streaky, less transparent, build up that kind of tone. And after that, we are going to blast it with a brighter white before we start weathering it with some chipping effects and things like that. So we're just going to reinforce that layer. It's going to be much the same as we've seen already, but you're going to start to see the color strengthen and get a lot more blocky, a lot more powerful. But I'm going to have some water because I've been doing a lot of talking. Wonderful. Man's got to stay hydrated during the stream. Let's get to it. Let's pop in this layer. This one's going to be a lot faster because we already have that foundation laid down, and the layer is a little bit thinner anyway. We've watered it down slightly more. So we can kind of move faster over the whole thing. And you can see that it is starting to get that little bit more powerful and blocked in. Kenneth, see you later, my friends. Hope your interview goes well. Have a good time there. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the stream later. How have people found running the new book? Have you folks played many games yet? And if so, how are you finding it? You enjoying the vibe? Or did you prefer the old codexes? Because I played quite a few games now. I'm having a good time with this book. There's lots of interesting list archetypes I want to try. Don't really have the time to try all of them, or the painting time to get everything done. But Disciples of the Red Angel is on my list as one of the ones to try out soon. I think that could be a really fun build. Want to hobby up some custom skull cannons for that list as well. But yeah, what about the rest of you folks? Are you getting reps in? Are you winning games? Is everyone running Invocatus and millions of 8-pound? Because that seems to be the popular build right now. And for good reason. Oh, Ymir, you didn't know there was a Discord? Yeah, check it out. It's a great time. Like I say, we got tons of channels. Pretty much something for everyone in there. And everyone is always welcome as long as you are cool and respectful. Lots of good emojis of my face in there too. Seems to be quite a popular thing amongst the folks. Yeah, you're running millions of jackals, Mark. I hear you. I see through you. You've been cramming games, Rin? Is that with the Charybdis or with Khorne? I'm not sure what carry means in that situation. Could be Khorne, could be the Charybdis. I hope it's the Charybdis. That would be freaking awesome. I really want to try that, but I do not own the model, and nor am I going to buy it because it is just too big. Hell yeah, glad you've been enjoying the Discord, Travis. That is hype. Inclusiveness is what we are all about. We have no time for the hate train on the Red Path. We are all about bringing everyone into this hobby, having a good time, making sure everyone is having fun. That's the vibe, you know? We are world leader players, so it's like play the bad guys, be the good guys. Is kind of the vibe. Rin, you are actually running the Charybdis. That is freaking baller. What are you putting inside it? Ymir playing Avocado and Juggerlord. I have seen that one. It's pretty popular. I think Jack is running that as well with quite a bit of success recently. Nice cheeky little build, that one. Land Raiders are for sure being underrated. Like everyone just kind of dismisses them, I think, because they're like conditioned not to like Land Raiders, but I think they actually do have some play anyway, for sure. Like we're seeing people put up results with Land Raiders in Disciples of the Red Angel and other things like that. People like dismiss them straight away, being like, oh, you know, it's a Land Raider, it's whatever. But yo, if you're out there like getting wins with Land Raiders, like that's hella cool. And they are a force to be reckoned with. Like if you put down Angron and Land Raiders, your opponent's only going to be able to shoot one of those things. So they gotta make a tough choice. Alright, let's work on this side of the boy. Chump, you're working on World Leaders for Heresy? That's freaking sweet. I love Heresy World Leaders. That's why I'm painting them those colors. Do I recommend keeping Angron's armor off for painting? Yes, I sure do. It makes life a whole lot easier. If you keep his armor off, you can freely dry brush that without worrying about getting any of your metallic tones onto Angron's skin tones and vice versa. So yeah, highly recommend painting Angron in sub-assembly. I would also recommend leaving the wings off and the arms off. Just makes life easier for you. Less heavy a model to hold while you're painting, a less awkward shape if you want to rotate it. Like you guys can probably see, I'm doing a whole bunch of rotating while I'm painting this guy. It's a good way of like making sure that you're checking all your angles, making sure everything's getting covered. So with Angron, I recommend doing him in as many pieces as possible, just to make sure that you've got the most comfortable setup possible, that you don't have any crossover of different textures that you don't want necessarily crossing paths. Variety of different reasons. When it comes to big centerpiece models like Angron, sub-assembly is your best friend. And so is dry brushing. If you watch the Angron painting streams, we did a lot of dry brushing there, especially in the metallics. And if you're trying to dry brush those metallic tones and you have that armor glued to the skin, it becomes very, very risky, especially if you have the skin already painted. I think this area here is going to be, that we're painting right now, it's going to be a really nice area to do some freehand. I think we're going to put some cool demonic runes right there, all around those scratch marks, just to, I don't know, it's a nice flat space, there's room to work there. And I think, how would that work in the lore? Maybe it's sort of like a mark to brand him to the rider. Something like that. I need to come up with a story for how the Firekeeper actually got this Juggernaut, and what the Juggernaut's name is going to be. That's an interesting one. Why don't you folks, if you got any cool ideas based off the lore that I've said already, you can hit me up with some ideas if you got them. What the Juggernaut's name might be, where it came from, and how he managed to tame it. You got pre-demon Angron in your Horse Heresy army, chump? That is freaking dope. I don't actually have the Heresy version of Angron. Never really got around to buying it. And I can't really run him in any of my armies, so don't really have a reason to buy him either. Oh yeah, we talked about the lore about this guy at the start of the episode. I won't retell it, because it's a fairly, I think we talked about it for like 15-20 minutes. But basically the TLDR is this guy is the herald of my custom warband. So he bears the standard of Macrolore of the Cinder Host, and yeah, his name is the Firekeeper. That's the vibe that we're going for him. At some point we are going to have a big old episode on freehanding this guy's banner. Maybe, or maybe I will do that off camera, depends how confident I'm feeling. I don't really want to mess the freehand up on live on stream, and then you guys have to deal with my sadness as I cry about it. Do I have any experience using Apothecary white contrast paint? Yeah, I do. It's pretty decent actually. It's not like my personal favorite. I prefer my own method of building up the acrylic layers, but like if you're in a rush and you just want to slap down a nice base coat to do a stronger white over, it can be quite good. I just prefer the kind of more gradual method of my own personal technique. Mainly because it's kind of tried and true. I know it works for my boys, and it is a little bit more tedious, but it builds up to quite a nice crisp white. Let me show you a berserker that I'm working on here. This is kind of where the finish of the white, well, not the finish, but where the acrylic layers will build up to. That kind of it's a stronger, smoother white, and we're not really far off from getting there with that. Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put on another layer of Corax white. This is going to be pretty much pure Corax white. We're just going to have a touch of Baneblade brown mixed in there to maintain the integrity of the foundation layer. So let's lay out some of that paint. So we're going to thin down this Corax white quite a bit. We don't want it like too thin, but we are working with layers here at this point, no more foundation layers. So we need to thin it out a little bit more than our foundation mix. So we'll probably go equal parts water to paint at this point. So we're going maybe 90% Corax white at this point, 10% Baneblade brown, and touch of water in with all that. This is going to be quite a noticeable difference as well once we start laying this down. Now crucially, at no point are we ever going to get it up to a pure white. We don't want that. Because if we get a pure... Sorry, you need to buy me an airbrush. Hey, if you're paying, I'll take it. For real though, I've always been a hairbrush painter though. I never really got in on the whole airbrush thing. I know it speeds things up, and I understand all the pros of airbrushing, and I perfectly respect that. But I like the traditional style of just taking your time and putting your layers down, you know. It's more tedious and it takes a lot longer, but I actually just paint because I find it very therapeutic. Kind of settles my mind after a long day. You know, I can kind of sit here and switch off or think about whatever I want to think about while I'm painting. Can't really do that with an airbrush. It's a bit more of a focused kind of speed technique, and it's great. It's really, really useful. I've got nothing against people who airbrush. But I just like the kind of the sort of patience that comes with painting with a hairbrush. It's very peaceful for me. You know, building up those layers real slowly. There's no pressure. You just kind of do it. Well, I mean, there is pressure once I'm painting for a tournament, which technically I am right now, but yeah, it's about the enjoyment of it, and I get my enjoyment out of painting with a hairbrush. Also, if I was painting with an airbrush, I would have to wear a respirator, and I wouldn't be able to do paint streams where I talk to all you fun folks and hang out. Yeah, we are building up this white. Like, it already looks a lot stronger in this area on this piece of armor compared to the previous layer. So we are getting to a level that we're happy with. We're going to need like maybe one or two more layers of white after this, and then we'll kind of be where we're at for the acrylics, at least for the white anyway, before we start putting a little bit of weathering down, which will be nice and fun. Another like kind of separate reason for not using an airbrush, I guess a little bit more of a, selfless and heroic reason. God, that sounds so stupid. But a lot of people don't have airbrushes, and if I'm out here making tutorials, well, I would like to appeal to people that don't necessarily have the finances or capability of airbrushing, and show them that there are quite a lot of techniques that you don't need an airbrush for to achieve. Like, a lot of people ask me when I painted my Angron, hey, did you airbrush those wings? What mix did you use in your airbrush to get that tone on the wings? I said I didn't airbrush that, I straight hand painted that. And people like legit just did not believe me. They were like, nah, you can't have done that without an airbrush. But like, I think a lot of people fall into the category of like, once they start airbrushing, they do everything through the airbrush, and like, again, that's totally fine, but you can achieve a lot of techniques with a hairbrush as well that many people think you can only do with an airbrush, such as those very fine blends and stuff. You can do all that with oil blending. You can do it with careful layering of acrylics as well. It takes more time for sure, but you can still totally do it. I know Yale Studio Guri, fantastic painter in the community. He does everything by hand brush as well, by hairbrush. Man does not use an airbrush for anything, and he is one of the best world leader painters out there, who has taught me a thing or two about painting my own army. Kind of see the strength of that white starting to build up now. We are getting to some nice layers. You've been working on some of the old Horus Heresy Black Book schemes? Yeah, those things are pretty much one of the foundational pieces of artwork that I based my scheme off of. Really, really good color schemes. The artwork in those books is just outstanding. Better do the old Juggernaut's head. Oh, thanks so much, Mark. I hope he is going to look good once he gets the full treatments. We will get there together over the next couple of weeks, I'm thinking. And we'll have to do some stuff off camera, obviously, because we do have a bit of a time constraint on this guy. He does have to be done for a tournament in 2 weeks? Uh-oh, didn't realize it was that close. But yeah, we will do the majority of this guy on stream, I think. Try and do the more interesting parts once we get into it, but I thought we'd start him on stream as well, just to see the kind of acceleration of where we're going to go in the next while. But yes, you are totally correct, Mark. All the white space to do stuff with. That is the primary reason why we painted the Juggernaut white, was to lavish a whole bunch of weathering on him at a later stage. Which, as you folks may know, I am a bit of a fan of the weathering concept. Some would even go so far as to say I enjoy painting in the grim, dark style. It has been rumored. give you some spicy lists. I can tell you the list that I'm bringing to this GT. It's super freaking spicy. So it starts off with the Firekeeper, this Juggerlord. He's got the Berserker Glaive. He is my one and only HQ. Then we have 4 5-man Berserker squads. We have 1 8-man Berserker squad. All of these squads have an Eviscerator, and the big 8-man Berserker squad has the banner as well. Then we have 3 10-man Jackal squads. You know it, we love it. We have 2 individual Chaos Spawn. We have 2 Rhinos to transport the boys around in. We have 2 Chaos Leviathan Dreadnoughts armed with Volkite, Gravflux Bombards, and Siege Drills. And to finish off the list, we have Angron. Now, if that's not a spicy list, I don't know what is, but we are bringing that to a GT at the end of this month, just for fun. You know, mix it up a little, go with something slightly new, see how the Leviathan Dreadnoughts do in this brave new world of the Codex. And yeah, I'm excited to see how they perform, if they can hold up. No drills now. I think my Warhammer Fest list is going to have some drills in it, which will be a very exciting list, I think. Going right back to my roots, potentially. I need to do a little bit of playtesting for my Fest list, but I'm pretty locked in for this one with the double Leviathans. I just have too many things that I want to try. That's the problem. The book has me very, very excited to try lots of different things, and I have only got so much time in the day because, unfortunately, I cannot do this thing full time. I still gotta work a real job. Okay, that is that layer put down. So the Juggerlord is looking like this right now, which isn't too bad. We are starting to pencil in a lot of the white color. You know, we're getting a lot of strength coming through now, finally, after a little bit of time working on that. So what we will be doing next is effectively building up 1 or 2 more layers of Core X White. We're probably going to get close to pretty much pure Core X White. But for now, I think we are going to call it there for the stream. We've been streaming for about an hour and a half, 90 minutes or so. And we've gotten to a relatively nice base coat on these whites. So I think we're going to call it there for now. We will be back with the Juggerlord in a week. We're going to be working on him on next Thursday. And we're going to be back working on our friend the Dishonored. We're going to be working on him on Monday's stream. He is hanging out around here as well, so we're going to be putting down some interesting cloth textures on him on Monday. And when we come back for the Juggerlord next Thursday, we're going to be working on some metallic tones and setting down some interesting early stage weathering, all that good stuff. But for now, I think we will wrap this stream up. Thank you so much for hanging out, everyone. Thank you for keeping me entertained in the chat and all the support along the way. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Join our Discord. Have a good time inside there. If you really love us, you can support us on Patreon, or you can super chat us here when we are live or any of the other ways in the video description. So once again, folks, thank you so much for hanging out on stream. And until the next one, I'll see you on Monday. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.